let's do something a little bit different. Give me your prediction. Give me your free agent prediction. Logan, I'm going to start with you. Who do you think the Bengals sign? Let's go. Give me 3 free agents. Throw them out there and tell me why.
Any position.
Any position. I don't give a damn. Let's go.
I really think I've talked about it a few times. Lloyd Cushenberry is a guy I like a lot. He's got the repertoire of Joe Burrow. He was a center in college. You know, he can come in and play guard this year or even center this year, move Ted over. And then, you know, you let that kind of work itself out as the year goes on, as next year goes on.
And for the people, drop down in the comment section the 3 free agents you think the Bengals are going to sign. And while we're at it, because we keep forgetting, we're having too much fun, give this video a like, subscribe to the YouTube channel, turn on post notifications so you guys don't miss when we go live, and also subscribe to the First Star Media Group YouTube channel. Remember, every single State of the Jungle is simulcasted on the Sit Down and First Star Media Group's YouTube channel. But drop down your 3 free agents you guys think the Bengals sign. Logan, continue. My apologies.
No, you're good. Another guy that I like to throw out there, we're going to go back to the cornerback room. Another LSU guy, believe it or not, Kristan Fulton. Just one of those guys, you know, he was kind of maybe a little overhyped coming out, just, you know, beneficent of playing with these massive LSU teams that were just unbelievable. You know, maybe the hype was a little much, but he's still been solid in the NFL. Another one of those guys, again, that we talked about, that Lou likes a bet on, first round pedigree, maybe hasn't necessarily lived up to the hype, but can play in the NFL. He has experience starting, has experience covering good receivers. I mean, shit, he has experience covering Jamar Chase. You know, there's a guys that's going to obviously make him hopefully a little cheaper, coming back to play with some of his guys again. Obviously, it just so happens to be an LSU guy. Like, I would still believe it. I would still want it just as much if he wasn't, but it just so happens to work out that way. And again, continuing that trend on defense, first round pedigree guys that, you know, were really hyped up coming out of college that haven't necessarily lived up to it. I think it might maybe be more towards the draft, but I wouldn't be surprised if we signed another linebacker too. We've been really fortunate with Logan Wilson and Jermaine Pratt's injury history. They've been great. Their play slipped a little bit last year, so maybe they want to add a little bit of heat. I don't think Akeem Davis-Gaither is going to come back. Then you have Bailey's a free agent, Batchy's a free agent, so you got to do something. I look at a guy like Kenneth Murray. You know, he's been bad. He's been bad. He's been real bad. He's been real bad. But that's why I just see that vibe. You know, I agree. He's been real bad, but he fits the mold of kind of the things the Bengals look for. He was a good athlete. He tested well. And then he has that pedigree. He's cast it off. But now he doesn't have to start. He doesn't have to play all these snaps. Now you can let him develop. You can let him do these things instead of being forced onto the field right away. You can use him to his strengths. You can use him to advantage. And he just kind of fits that vibe of a player the Bengals like to bring in and bet on.
Man, if I have to give 3 free agents, first of all, I'm going to steal one of your guys.
We're doing
Bobby Hart.
Bobby Hart, that's crazy. I'm going to steal Kristan Fulton. I think Kristan Fulton was a guy I definitely loved out of college. And just looking at what he did with the Tennessee Titans, I just remember his rookie year and then the year after that, they had a lot of hyped up guys. They drafted another cornerback. Farley. They had so many guys there with, you know, Brian Callahan and the new regime going to Tennessee. I don't see them re-signing Kristan Fulton. And that's a position where you're going to have 2 main starters, right? You're going to have Cam Taylor-Britt. You're going to have DJ Turner. And you're going to need to add someone else. So I think Kristan Fulton's a guy. He's still young enough. He's 25 years old. I really like Fulton. If I were to give another guy, I'm going to go out on a limb. I think they add someone like a Javon Kinlaw, you know, first round pedigree, like you said, a young, talented guy.
Who they liked.
Yeah, they did. And looking at the 49ers, that's going to be the biggest thing is, do they re-sign him, right, on a prove-it deal?
Yep.
I think they're going to obviously potentially give him an offer. But I wouldn't see why the Bengals don't give him, you know, potential 2-year, 3-year deal. I think Javon Kinlaw is the potential, you know, 26 years old. He's still young, and he's a guy where we talk about depth. That's what you can add. And he's potential to where he could be a starting defense tackle. He could be very good. His athletic traits are there. So Javon Kinlaw. And if I'm thinking one more, I'll just stick with Jordan Fuller. I think look at the safety position. Jordan Fuller was the guy. He's just consistent, man. You can throw him in at free safety, and you don't have to force, you know, Dax Hill and Jordan Battle to feel pressure if you go sign a Xavier McKinney, if you go sign a Geno Stone. He's a guy, Jordan Fuller, you know, would fit right into the rotation, and he's consistent. And comparing him versus Nick Scott, he was far more consistent than Nick Scott was, even heading into the offseason. So I think those 3 guys are lower tier guys where you'd pay a combined $10 million for them.
Teair Tart, who is my first guy. And the reason is because I think this represents kind of an optimal spot for value and just trying to get more bodies, more competent, capable bodies in the trenches for the Bengals because they did not have that behind DJ Reader and the flashes of BJ Hill last year, especially if you're going to be trying to replace Reader as well as add ideally 2 spots. You need to be a little bit cheap on these spots. So another guy, you want a guy who can give you juice, right? Be a rotational pass rusher who's not going to cost much. Maurice Hurst, the guy who came in who only fell in the draft because of concerns with his heart problem. Now, once that was addressed and known that it wasn't going to be an issue and they found steps and preventative care for that, then he was pretty successful. He had pass rush win rate over 10% from the interior, but then he had a calf injury that took him out 1 year. Then the next year he was coming back and he tore his biceps. Again, these are not like, oh, he's got a persistent hamstring. Oh, he keeps pulling his groin. These are
freak injuries.
Sometimes when you're like Terrell Suggs played like every year for 8 years and then tore his biceps. Like it just happens sometimes, especially when you're getting older. So coming off those injuries, saying, hey, you're still young. You didn't damage your knee, right? We don't expect catastrophic damage. We would expect a full recovery. That's a guy you can get for $3-4 million a year to kind of fill in and rotate. Another guy. So we talked about those 2 guys. I just want to say that I have always beat the cornerback drum. I always say you can't have enough corners. And when you think you have enough corners, you still need one more. I'm looking at kind of guys just like Steven Nelson, man. Like, yeah, that's your age 30, but you're looking for this guy to be a stopgap option, right? While you kind of figure out what your rotation and what the future of your corner room is going to be right now. And maybe they draft one in the 3rd or the 4th round that they kind of try and bring along a little bit. But adding a guy like a Steven Nelson on the boundary, because right now, if DJ Turner or Cam goes down, like,
or even just struggle, like they're still young.
Who do you have? Who do you have behind them that you feel good about going out there and starting and taking care and locking down some of these receivers? Like Steven Nelson's just been good for years, like just really solid. Malik, you're smiling. What you got over there, buddy?
So let me just preface this.
Drew Sample?
I am not reporting any news because whatever I say somehow finds its way to the good old X waves.
I love this
people say Malik said the Bengals are gonna sign this person.
Hang on, let me open Twitter. What were you saying?
Let me just say this: the Bengals don't do the tampering thing. They don't.
No one does.
Nobody does the tampering thing. It's illegal. It's illegal, guys.
Illegal.
It's illegal. But this is completely me trying to be speculative and go off of realistic options. This is coming with no knowledge. I promise you. I'm being serious here because I don't want to log on to Twitter or X and say Malik said the Bengals are going to sign such and such. Please, guys, please don't do this. Please. All right.
Logan.
Sorry. If I were the Bengals, I'm not the Bengals, but if I were the Bengals and I'm looking for options that make sense, that are realistic, that the financial side works out, one of the moves I would make is I would personally realistically go after Darnell Savage if I'm the Bengals.
I like that.
Free safety, a guy that was praised for his leadership. He seemed to be looking like he would take the next step, and for some reason didn't work out in Green Bay. He's a guy that was drafted with the 21st overall pick or something like that. I believe in the draft. To me, I think that makes sense. I think Darnell Savage is a guy, if you're looking for a younger guy that you can sort of build with. But if you're trying to go older, if you're trying to say, hey, we need a veteran presence back there to stable the room, I'm looking at one of the 2 safeties the Bills just cut. I'm looking at Jordan Poyer. I'm looking at Micah Hyde. Yeah. Now, do those guys move the needle enough? I know they've been dealing with injuries and stuff like that, but do they move the needle enough? Because if I'm looking at a guy, for instance, that I'm trying to build with, I think you have a lot of guys to pick from, whether it be the Xavier McKinney, who's probably going to cost a crap ton, whether it be the Darnell Savage, whether it be Cameron Curl, whether it be any of these guys. I think those guys make sense from the safety spot. I think Mekhi Becton is a guy that makes sense at the right tackle spot. I don't love it, but I look at the fact that Frank Pollock is the guy that drafted him. He was in the room when he was drafted. He's a guy that really praised him. And this is a lot of people thought Mekhi Becton was going to be an absolute beast in the league. Going, Noah Fant.
Really?
All roads lead to Noah Fant.
Noah Fant. I think Noah Fant ends up in Cincinnati. I believe that.
Hope so.
And if I was Cincinnati, I'd be very interested in him. I don't think the Bengals leave free agency without a tight end. I don't.
What
believe
would you
that.
do if it's not Fant?
Yeah,
And I hate that. I'm sorry.
Hey, let's say Noah Fant has a 2-year $1 billion deal.
I hope he
somewhere.
does.
Where are you
He's-
going next?
Listen, I just hope wherever he goes is good quarterback play. But Gesicki, we're back on that Gesicki train.
Yeah.